All right, now
All right,
we're
we're
recording.
on. We're all on.
Yep, everyone's recording. Okay, and now I guess this is where we'll put in the music, like the nice intro music.
Yeah. Wait, we need to decide what music we should have.
DMX.
We'll deal with that later. All right, welcome to Critical Mess podcast. I'm your host, Sleeve Monkey.
Wait. Are we doing call signs?
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Well, I am.
Okay, I'm Pilgrim.
Oh, using your made-up names. I'm Doodle.
Yeah, Doodles, Pilgrim, and Sleeve Monkey. We sound like the reject hackers from the Matrix, the ones who didn't make the cut. All right. Who is excited? Anyone excited about any upcoming games?
Any upcoming games?
Any upcoming games? Anyone's excited about?
No, Doodle doesn't want to talk about Red Dead.
I don't want to talk about it. Isn't the Red Dead coming out today? Tomorrow?
Hey, that's right, buddy. Now we're talking about Red Dead.
But maybe
It
there's
didn't happen like that.
But maybe this is what could happen now: is Doodle could explain why they don't want to talk about Red Dead.
Yeah. Tell us, Doodle, why?
I don't want to talk about Red Dead.
Yeah, why?
I don't want to talk about it.
You don't want to talk about why you don't want to talk about Red Dead?
No, I don't know. It's like I'm not on the hype train. It's like
I hear you.
It's the same with GTA. Like everyone was super excited for it, and then it came out, and then I played it, and it was like, I mean, it's a bit fun to drive around, but it gets a bit boring. I think.
Fair enough. It's not. I mean, not everybody can like every game.
Your opinion.
But you're wrong.
Yeah,
But
you're
okay.
LA Noire was also pretty boring, I think. I mean, I didn't play it, but I heard that it got not so great reviews. LA Noire.
Well, it was a pretty niche game. I think it's safe to say. I mean, Pilgrim, did you play LA Noire?
No, I never played LA Noire.
That.
Well, that's the thing. That's a Rockstar game, and I don't know if you played it, but most people didn't. I think. I mean, it came out a year after Red Dead 1.
Yeah, it was kind of a side project, I think, and it had been in development for a long time.
Yeah.
I think. And then it came out, and it was very kind of niche. A lot of the gameplay revolved around trying to read people's tells, basically, and seeing if people were lying or not. And it was, not a very usual game in that sense. So
I would say though that I was talking today to someone about great games needing to not only be really fun to play, but also needing to be important for the industry. And I think that LA Noire is one of those games because it really shone a light on the fact that if you get good motion capture, or I mean, now it might look a bit silly with like that doubt meme, but if you get good motion capture, that you have a whole new potential that's opening up. And I think that for the industry, that was an important game for that. I mean, even though I never played it, I can see that that's the effect it had.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're maybe thinking about Star Citizen now as well with the facial.
Yeah, I mean that's the next. I mean, Star Citizen is doing it in all areas of tech, but that's it's the same thread, that. And then some folks will say, yeah, well, that's just gimmicky. It's a gimmicky or a niche thing. But if you actually start looking at these clips, I mean, like from Star Citizen, for example, of a player character expressing different emotions with one of those face recognition from the webcam, it's absolutely incredible the level of immersion it adds to the game.
It does feel a little bit wonky at this stage.
I mean, it's going to need a bit of refining for sure, but
yeah,
but still, I've seen some really nice clips of people. I mean, for example, there was one guy I saw who did a version of what's that David Bowie song, Space Oddity.
Oh, right.
And there was a whole music video of his character singing it floating in space, and it was really, really good.
But it relies on your webcam, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, I think it's like a Snapchat,
Yeah,
it's like face capture.
Then if you if you have a shitty webcam or bad lighting, it's gonna be kind of fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were partnering with some webcam makers probably as well. But I was going to say another thing about. No, I can hear you ready to shit on Star Citizen. So I'm
I'm just going to make a joke about the release date, but I'll keep it in. Right. I'll keep it in for now.
I'm going to steer the conversation a little bit away, because back to where we were talking before. Because another thing that I saw about Red Dead 2, and Rockstar was a list of all of the games that they've released along a timeline. And
I saw it too.
It's quite dense, because this is their 20th year in operation. So in the beginning, you got quite dense releases. But I think that the last game they released before this one, was that GTA 5 in 2013?
Yeah, it was GTA 5. Yeah,
so there's been a drought, and they must have poured the totality of their manpower into this game.
So, hey, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today was inventory management, which I don't know if you agree, but everyone has a really strong opinion about.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. My opinion is extremely strong.
Yeah, people sort of tend to either hate it or love it, or, or they really want it in a game, or it kind of ruins the game for them, I think.
Well, no, when I said my opinion was extremely strong, it's less about the concept of inventory management, because like I said, I like these sort of thinking games and strategy games and a bit more slow-paced games. So I love me some good inventory management, but the reason that I have strong opinions about it is because it's so often complete shit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm not saying that people have opinions about whether you should have inventory management or not.
No, but I mean, some folks.
I feel like you kind of need it.
Well, some folks, enjoy games where you don't have so much.
Well, indeed,
management.
And this is what I was kind of gonna hoping to get into, which is why you would need it, and what is inventory management trying to why is it needed, and what is it trying to recreate? And ultimately, it's because you have a lot of choice, and often in how your avatar is going to be equipped. But it also becomes a kind of trade system, which is often, I think, where the systems fall down pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And then what it's trying to do is recreate essentially you carrying stuff.
Yeah.
Which is just the weirdest to me kind of abstraction that we have in video games. Everyone kind of takes inventory for granted, even though it's one of the sort of funkiest, bizarrest ways of trying to express that imaginable in most games.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So you've
which games are you thinking about in particular?
Well, just starting off early on, you've got the kind of Tetris style, inventory management that you look at in classically Diablo 2, for example.
Yeah,
where you have a certain number of tiles, and then different things have different spaces. So the way they've tried to abstract how much your character can carry is, how many tiles each thing takes up, and it becomes this weird kind of Tetris game.
Yeah,
which maybe makes sense. I don't know. It kind of makes sense, right? You're putting things into a bag, and certain shaped things will fit into your bag.
Well, I just slow down a little bit there and go back a bit, because you said in the beginning there, implying that's a sort of an early or a proto state for inventory management, but that really is I think a very strong evolution of the inventory management systems in games. Prior to Diablo's system with the physicalized tiles, in really early RPGs,
right, it's like text-based.
Yeah, well, not necessarily even text-based. Look at the old games like Ultima. Look at old role-playing games like that.
Right. How did they do it?
You just had a list of items that you were carrying.
They're just based on weight, right? It's like you can carry this much weight to this thing weighs.
Yeah, basically, and it was just assumed your character just had it somehow.
Even weight, was there? I think.
I think in I can't remember.
In the later ones, but in
because we don't do that in our everyday life. You know, we don't have all of our stuff and all of our outfits and all of our equipment
and
with
if we
us.
did, you know, we'd have a massive backpack, and it would be very visible, and it'd be hard to move around and stuff.
And it would affect presumably whatever gameplay you're trying, or whatever situation you're trying to emulate in the game in other ways. So
exactly,
and so this tile system, you say, I think is actually a very important evolutionary step in inventory management, because it's this idea that, well, you know, you need to somehow sort of physicalize what you're carrying. Even if it's got because there are early renditions. I'm thinking of Dungeon Master. I don't know if you played those 1 and 2,
sure.
And then you had like a 3x10 grid or something of just things, and everything was the same size. And ridiculously, if you needed more squares, you could pick up a chest, and then if you opened it, there were 10 more squares inside.
And so you had this kind of chest within a chest within a chest within a chest, and you were carrying basically 50 sub-inventories.
But you could sort of see how that evolves from that into Diablo's system of the tiles.
Absolutely.
And that tile system, I was just going to say one more thing before I be quiet for a bit, because I've just been blabbing on about this, but then that tile system persists actually all the way to today, because it's often you think about the tile system like this very old-fashioned way of doing it, but or retro perhaps in the case of like Diablo 3. But if you look at like The Witcher, I mean...
The Witcher has a similar thing as well.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I was going to say about The Witcher 3.
Was a thing.
Exactly. I was going to say, so The Witcher 3, I think, is one of the worst inventory managements in any kind of modern game I've played. And considering how good everything else is about the game, circle jerk, the inventory is just absolute shit. And it's a combination of, you know, I get the tile system and I get the kind of weight limit, but this one sort of combined both. But then the tile system, you weren't limited to how much you could carry, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So
things are either 1 or 2 tiles, depending on the big item or small item.
So then, so in that case, it's better to do it in the kind of, you know, Skyrim style of, which also, by the way, is a terrible system. But yeah, in that case, have a list. There's no point to have all these tiles if you're then going to have endless tiles and also have a weight restriction.
Well,
so it seems to me that you need to think about, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to limit the amount of stuff and the size of things that people can take, or are you trying to limit the weight? And I guess then the question is why? What's the reasoning behind it? Why would you choose one of these systems?
I don't mind the way, like the fact that it's all tiles, because it lets you kind of see if it's like a big item, you can see if it's like a chest piece or like boots or a sword or whatever. So like in that way you can kind of
like a snapshot. I guess you get like a snapshot view of your inventory.
Yeah, so you know, like scroll through everything to see what it is, and then if something's called like, I don't know, like it'd be hard to work out what it is by the name. You can kind of see by a picture quickly. So you have like a better overview of everything, and then like it's just that those things have like a weight to them, which I don't know. So I feel like with a lot of games lately, I'm thinking like The Last of Us, and strangely, but like Fortnite, which is weird, but it's another game which you have to kind of think about your inventory stuff. They've just removed like so much of like your carry capacity, I guess. Yeah,
they've gone much more minimalist,
and it's like.
It's refreshing.
The things you're carrying are more meaningful in a way.
Yeah. And so, I mean, going back to what I was saying about the abstraction, it's that it's just something that we accept. So there's many things where we demand realism, or we're like, oh, but how could our hero do that, or how could our character do that? Or
and I mean, it's kind of understanding in like these games, because like you want to sell the shit to get money, and that's why like you can do it in Diablo and Witcher and like
right.
Skyrim.
But often it just becomes a kind of pointless mechanic for the sake of having a mechanic, I think.
For sure. And you pretty much always, I can't think of an exception, get like gold capped in like the first 10 hours of playing or some shit.
Yeah, or exactly. And then it just becomes this min-max of this kind, you know, like Skyrim. I think everybody did this. You work out which has the best weight to gold ratio. And
they might as well just make that a stat of an item.
Exactly. So don't call it gold, just call it, you know, the weight to gold ratio. And then
that has like knock-on effects. So that just completely like removes the like importance of having gold in that game.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
you can just do like one quest line, I don't know, like Mage's Guild or some shit, and then you have enough money to buy Breeze Home, and it's like
well, hang on. Wait. I've got a few things to say about this now because first of all, the thing you just said now about doing a quest line and then all of a sudden you're a millionaire. In a way, that's touching on a sort of separate problem of a game's economy. Because if you look at Kingdom Come, for example, one of the things I was really looking forward to with that game, Kingdom Come Deliverance, was being a poor, illiterate peasant struggling to find stuff and survive in this very realistic world. But after
begging for soup.
Yeah, but after begging for soup, I was looking forward to begging for soup. But after 20
that's
minutes,
I spent a lot of my time eating out of people's pots. I remember that.
Yeah. But after 20 minutes play, I had golden armor, a huge sword, and like a horse with barding, and I was like shagging my way through the royalty of Croatia, wherever it was set. So that's like in a way a separate
like
problem.
Leisure Suit Larry Kingdom.
Yeah. What's that thing from Mass Effect? Report to my...
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
Well, bang, okay.
Yeah. Right. No. So anyway, but what I was going to say was about this idea about physicalizing it. I can see what your point, Monkey, that it's not a good idea to I'm just abbreviating it. It's
I would
weird.
have thought sleeve. Maybe sleeve's better.
No. What's wrong with Monkey? I like Monkey.
Great point, Monkey.
That's so much better. Anyway,
sorry, you got derailed.
Yeah, sorry, Monkey.
Keep going. Keep going.
It's unclear what they're trying to achieve by structuring it the way they do. But physicalizing items does give you a different sort of connection to the stuff you're carrying. I remember my experience of playing Skyrim. I had like a skull with a candle in it. I had one of those weird gems in a box and then soul gems and all this stuff. But they were all just sort of words in a big long list. But when I played The Witcher, I kept about 50 heads of different beasts in my pockets at all times because I was like, fuck yeah, this was this thing I've killed. I'm not going to throw that away. You had this real connection to the items because it's physicalized in a completely different way.
Yeah, but it's just like, why should you be able to carry 50 of them? Like,
Right, well...
Yeah, I agree with that.
One of the things I was going to raise is why... So why then why is there a limit to how much you can carry, and why is the limit arbitrarily set at something that's unrealistic? And it seems that the inventory management, I don't know if this is really planned very well by any developer, but the kind of purpose is to create this economy, as you say, and this kind of need to do stuff, this need to go on raids, right? I mean, that's essentially what it comes down to. I think you carry an unlimited amount of stuff because they want to encourage a sort of commerce, scavenger, seller, repairer type environment in the game.
No, what you're doing is putting your monkey finger right on the problem, and because the problem is it has competing aims which are mutually exclusive. Because on the one hand, it's meant to be a representation. What items are you choosing to carry? You can only carry a finite amount. So which ones are you going to go for? And for that reason, you think, well, I want to have heavy armor. I want to have a big shield. I want to have a big sword. But on the other hand, it's also part of the financial system. Which things are you dragging around to hope to sell or trade?
And also, I guess, the reward, right? Because when you kill something, now it's an expectation that it will give you loot. And when you don't get loot, it's like, well,
yes,
that sucks.
So it strikes me that the best way of resolving this sort of problem is just not worrying about carrying limits. Or structuring.
So that's one.
I don't mean just pretending it's not a problem, but structuring the game in such a way that it doesn't become a problem. So, for example, you have a base with endless capacity, or in Kingdom Come you have a horse that can carry stuff.
Right.
And of
or
course,
you can just
the horses can carry different amount, but I got the really retarded slow horse that could carry everything for me. That was the first thing.
What was the name of that game? Do you remember? Was it Torchlight or something like that, or Torchwood, where you had like this dog who went with you, and you just when you wanted to sell things, you just gave it to the dog,
Yeah,
and he
that
ran
was
back
glorious.
to town and sold the stuff. Yeah,
But
that was
that was
a
it.
great
That was
system.
great because it was
Yeah.
like you still had these physicalized tile system like in Diablo, a lot like in Diablo. But then you could send, but then you could just send your pet back to town.
Right, so it was kind of like a more kind of executive way of handling this issue, which is not. I mean, I don't think it's fun. I don't know about you, but at least the way it is now, it's not fun. Like we were playing, obviously, the three of us, a lot of Divinity: Original Sin 2, and I don't know, just the trading aspect just seems to take ages, and you can't compare the items in your inventory with the items you're using.
You
can't remember.
You can, man. You press R3.
Yeah, you can in your inventory, but not when you're talking to the trader.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
like
true.
if you're gonna buy something from them, you can't compare
Yeah.
the things.
So
Oh
you
no,
have to
you
keep
can.
going
When you're
with
buying
that.
things, you can. You can compare with what you're wearing, but not what's in your
When
inventory.
Right. Well, in any case, it doesn't feel sensible. It's not. It doesn't feel like a really sensible
no.
way of doing it, and it's just this. I don't know. It's just this archaic mechanic,
I mean,
which
like would like Skyrim, I guess. Would Skyrim be better if it had the inventory management of I don't know, like something a lot more minimalistic, where like if you found a weapon, it could be like, oh, you can swap this out, and you have like a small bag, you can put some basic shit in, like some flowers or whatever, but you can't
maybe
go
another
around
sheath.
carrying like 10 like heavy axes.
But in a
this
way,
is
that's a
what I
sort
was
of
gonna
penalization for the player because
Well, no.
now you've killed 3 orcs.
It changes the experience, is the thing. But it's like, would it
That's
be a
the thing.
more fun experience? And like, I think it would be, because it wouldn't be. We have to think more about your decisions. And
Look, here's an example of this. Look at God of War. I mean, how do they do inventory management in that game? You're not carrying
terribly.
Sure, yeah. On the presentation side, yes, but on the focus on it, you don't need. I mean, okay, the I'm just now it's all coming back to me, putting all those sodding gems and runes
sockets
and
and stuff.
You know what?
Okay, yeah.
Thing.
Okay, no. But my point is more what what Doodle was saying, which is that what Doodle was saying, which is that when you I forgot what he was saying. Oh yeah, you've shifted the focus of what sort of things you're picking up. You know,
but I think I mean it's different because God of War you could still carry. Basically, God of War you had no weight limit, so that was sort of the opposite. I think really of what Doodle's saying. What you said, Pilgrim, was that you can go the other way. You can make infinite carrying capacity, and then perhaps have some kind of easier system for trade. And that encourages both what you're hoping to achieve, which is this sort of adventuring, kind of fun game that doesn't slow down or the pace doesn't stop. But you still have the trade system.
Yeah.
The other way of doing it, I think, which makes maybe a bit more sense, is as Doodle was suggesting, you have a limit. You then kind of almost remove entirely the commerce aspect. So you're not being penalized because that's no longer the way that you make gold or get rewarded. And instead, you have, if your character has a backpack, then that slows him down and he can only carry whatever fits in his backpack.
Yeah.
And if he wants to have a big double-handed sword, then he needs to, strap it to his back. And
okay, but hang on, let me say something about this, because now you're talking about realism, and this is something that really gets my goat.
Realism is because you don't have to go in like a realism direction of it.
I think that's interesting as well.
No, but
focus of
the thing that what I wanted to say about this is, if you're saying, okay, well, we want realism, you can only carry this much, and for that reason, you can't carry all this stuff to become instantly very rich. Now, that's okay on the one hand, but if you do introduce that mechanic, and you start expecting this kind of realism in terms of the physicalization of items and valuable objects you can collect, if that is the route you take, I, as the player, will be disappointed if I, kill a monster which was in plate armor, if I then can't take that plate armor. It's like, no, that was the monsters, you can't take that.
No,
now.
but that could be part of it. Part of it could be, yes, anything that people have when they die, you can take. But also,
yeah, but that's almost never the case.
It should be. It should, and it could be. But then the flip side is, if somebody's got plate armor, there's probably quite a small chance that it would actually fit you.
Yeah, sure, but you can
plate armor was tailored, you know.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, I mean is I can just think of more games where the situation is, yeah, you've killed the animated, statue, but you can't take any of its items because those aren't lootable.
Sure.
But now you killed the Bandit Lord and he had a mace, but you can't take his armor. You know, that sort of stuff.
No, but why would you not be able to take their armor as a thing?
Yeah, I think we're envisaging
No, but it's
a completely different system where it's much more realistic in that sense. So everything, you can pick up everything, but you cannot carry everything.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you're using a bow or some shit and you kill a guy and drops a mace, like, do you want to swap this bow out for the mace? And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll use mace for a while. And then it's like, if you're wearing,
you could maybe have you can have a bow slung over your shoulder, but
yeah, sure.
But that's
and
about
then
it.
If you're wearing like leather chest armor or something, if I'm plate armor, you can swap them out or something or whatever. But it's like I don't know. I feel like
it's so immersion killing when you have 500 wheels of cheese in your inventory.
Yeah, and like you have 500 wheels of cheese and 500 iron daggers. Because it doesn't become iron daggers. It just becomes
monetary
gold.
equivalent. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like
it's tokens.
Yeah, and then that has like I said earlier, like has a knock-on effect on like the whole gold thing. So anything in the game which you have to buy is then like its value is skewered. So it's like this potion costs, I don't know, like 20 gold a pot, and then it's like, okay, but if I sell this magical axe of like fucking, that gives you 500 gold. I can buy loads of potions.
And you get into this ridiculous...
Where did you get that axe, man?
you get into this ridiculous scenario as well when the developers put these weird limits on how much gold the store owners have, which is just another barrier they're putting in your way, in the pace of your game. And you've sold everything you can and they don't have any money. So then you're like, oh, well, I'll buy, I don't know, these scrolls or whatever, because although they're not useful, at least then I can sell more heavy
it's like,
things.
I might end up using this fortify intellect potion at some point.
Exactly.
So fighting a big dragon.
I'm starting to think, maybe the problem here is that there's not a unity of there's not a unity of design. Yeah, because it's very haphazard. It's like like we were saying, on the one hand, it's for financial purposes because that's how the game's economy works. On the other, it's about your trade-offs between how many potions you carry, which armor you have, blah blah. And then there was a third hand, but I've forgotten what.
I guess
was.
Just looting and reward, right?
Yeah, and smoothing out your power curve so you don't get this spike immediately. That's the other thing that these mechanics all try to handle at once, and it's too messed up. And it strikes me, now that I think about it, that it's very seldom you'll see a game where the developers have thought of a good wealth sink. If you play Skyrim, there's really not much to spend all of that. I mean, once you've got the house and everything,
you buy a house and then you just spend like all your money just like kitting it out, and it's like, okay, cool. Now I have like the biggest mansion in like whatever the capital city is called.
I mean, Skyrim has all kinds of issues, I think, with the difficulty curve. I mean, it's way too easy. I think everyone agrees on that.
Yeah.
Well, you say that, but you can do like on my. Okay, so shamelessly, I think this was my first run with Skyrim. I got out of that cave in the beginning, and I saw the shrine there, and then where you become the blessing of the warrior, or whatever. And behind it, I saw some flowers or something, and I went to go and pick it up. And then I realized, oh, there's lots of pretty flowers here. So I started picking flowers for like half an hour, and then I found some hut somewhere which had one of those alchemy stations in. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm going to, fuck around with this stuff. So I spent like, I don't know, my first couple days playing it, just living in the woods as an alchemist. And I leveled up the, skills like alchemy and then some magic. I was doing a lot like restoration, I think, or illusion, to a really, really high level. And my character was a high level, but I had fuck all equipment and I was fucking useless in combat. And then I went to go and fight some Draugrs in that first Dragon Claw cave or whatever it's called. And I got wrecked because it scales to your level.
Well, because you were an alchemist, a hippie who only did restoration spells.
No, but this is. I mean, this is maybe a topic for another day. But the using your character's level as a proxy for the difficulty is
Right.
problematic, because you can reach that level through leveling up quite nice things like flower picking and house decoration, or you could reach that by like murdering people and becoming lethal.
Yeah, I think if you're going to give people that choice, you also need to then let them have that choice throughout the entire game, so that they can solve problems in the way that they manage to level up. But just to go back to the inventory, so one of the games I think I've gone on about because I have a real hard on for is the inventory management in Last of Us, which is excellent.
That's
I think
the best inventory management in
I think it
game.
really marries this idea of realism with this idea that you're just making an abstract of the stuff that you're carrying.
Granted, they had a bit easier because there's no economy in that game, but like
that's true. That's true. But you can definitely see that scaled up.
For
and
sure,
you can
definitely.
see it. You can see it with the weight capacity. The gun carrying system is really good. Unlike, I mean, if you recall the original Red Dead, you had a wheel of, I can't remember how many, like 30 guns.
A wheel of
and then you
pain.
swap those guns out with other guns.
Yeah, and then but then you
It's
still
like in
have all the
GTA,
guns.
right?
So right,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
Which obviously we know now that they're fixing for the next game. Spoiler. But the Last of Us system was very, very clever in that it was on the fly. It felt like you were limited to what your character could actually carry. And there was a crafting system which was just very simple, very neat, very tidy. Getting things out of your inventory was quick and easy. You didn't have to pause the game to scroll down to find the potions.
You didn't have to like go to any menu or anything. But like if you wanted to swap a gun out in like your like harness, it took a bit longer, But like that's as it should.
Right.
And then also
Exactly.
with like the crafting ingredients, you could basically carry as many crafting ingredients as you wanted. I think.
I have to admit, I can't exactly remember if there was a cap on that.
Maybe there was, but like you spent it on the things because the things were so good. So it was like you
Right.
really reached that cap anyway. I think.
And I think that system I'd love to see in other games where there is an economy, and also maybe in RPGs. It would be interesting to see what an RPG would look like if you removed this funky, weird kind of hoarding economy. It would just we just accept it so readily, and it
then
just
you
seems.
just got gold for doing missions instead, and then that was your main source. Maybe you found some like doing a mission, it was like some lying about or whatever, like a table.
Well, I'm just thinking, if you think about some of the original kind of high fantasy, you've got like Conan. He's not going around picking up all the stuff off all the dead people. He's not like, okay, kill these guys.
No, but like missions, right? So if you're a thief, you want to.
But what I mean is, what he does instead is he goes on one big mission where at the end, there'll be like a golden skull with like jewels in its eyes.
Okay, so this now you're talking about a thematic solution to it by saying, but you're a rampaging barbarian who doesn't care about material wealth.
Not necessarily. You're just an adventurer who does not, rip all the clothes off everybody that you kill. I don't think that's very thematic. It's funny. I don't know if I told you guys, but when Marianne watched me play that game, Skyrim, for the first time, I killed some people. Instantly started ripping off all their clothes, and she was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" It was just so like second nature for me to just rip these guys' clothes up and leave these dead cold bodies lying in the snow by the side of the road.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, he's got good boots, baby.
Yeah.
He's got good boots.
Or like if you come up to one of these random encounters where there's like, if you come up to one of these random encounters in the wild and there's like, there's loads of dead NPCs and there's a dead monster and there's a guy you're obviously meant to talk to. Obviously, before you go and talk to the person, you start rummaging through all of the corpses.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking all their clothes.
Exactly. Like you go to the battlefield, like talk to the general before you start the mission, and then it's like, yep, sure, just gonna go and check out all these dead soldiers. Ooh, that's nice, nice helmet.
Rip the teeth out of the troll. But the this in a way puts a finger on the problem here, because I'm going to use Kingdom Come as an example again, because in that game you do have a very limited capacity, and they're trying to play into this idea that you can't carry everything with you. But I will admit that I went into the woods to do something. I happened upon some humans, shot them with my arrows, and then killed them or whatever.
Humans, by the way, being the enemy.
Exactly. And stripped them naked, as one does. Got all their stuff, and then when I tried to walk back, it was time to walk at 1 meter per second territory.
That's such a stupid way of doing it. Oh my god.
But then I was like, because it's so. I mean, I know that it's bad to be like this, but it's so ingrained in me. I was like, fuck it, I need this wealth. So I started watching some good YouTube video on my phone or something, and held down W and walked back to the town and sold it all. And that wasn't fun, but that's what the game had created, a system whereby that was the way you got your quest reward. And then later when I got a horse, okay, I'd kill him, get as much as I could that the shitty horse could carry, go back, sell it, and then go back to find the same bodies again. And that involved me dragging all the corpses around. And then the wife sees you dragging naked corpses around as well.
Exactly, and then
exactly, and it's just weird.
It's like, okay, so, it is weird. And
Horizon,
and the
I was going to say, sorry.
No, please.
I was going to say, Horizon Zero Dawn had an interesting way of doing inventory management. It was like a cross between... what was it a cross between? It was a cross between like Red Dead or like GTA, that kind of ring style. And also the kind of...
like a more detailed inventory.
Yeah. So you could have, but maybe, I don't know, like 10 weapons or something in your inventory, or like in your total inventory. But you only have like 4 or 5 of those on your weapon ring, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you could only use those, the ones on the ring.
I mean that's quite a good system. And then, but then I guess the question is, where do you have to go back somewhere to get the other ones, or can you just then put them onto your ring?
You can take them off and on your ring when you're out of combat.
I heard it when I said it.
Keep them in your prison wallet.
Oh my god, that's disgusting. So just a couple of things I want to say. One, I think we all agree that the fucking
it's like you reached your carrying capacity, but you got one tiny slot left which you could fit a ring in, or like an ambulance.
Hey, it's not that small. So I think we all agree that the over-encumbered system is absolute bullshit, where it's like, oh, now you just have to walk at a fucking snail's pace. Like, fuck off. Just either don't let me carry that, or like let me carry it, but then I don't know, maybe I'm weaker or I can't fight.
Do you know what my immersion solution for that is? I imagine my character. Imagine you've got like no. Imagine you have 10 sacks of they each weigh 30 kgs. You can't carry all at once. So what my character's doing is he's
chucking one forward and then
exactly, and then going backward on that, and then but he's not moving. He's just like doing it like that. And then once he's done all 10, he moves forward 2 meters and then does the same process again. And that's why you're moving slowly.
So the other thing I wanted to say is that there's a system of inventory that we haven't discussed yet. Another system which is, I think, brilliant. I mean, I really love the system. It's the system I think they should have had on God of War, because it would have been better. And it's the style. So these inventory systems that we've discussed kind of rely on there being not an infinite, but almost an infinite amount of stuff that is out there and that you can use or sell or whatever. Which is what happens in role-playing games, particularly, where there's just like thousands of items and configurations. But games like Zelda, in particular, Ocarina of Time, which is one of the few ones I played, there you have an inventory where there's a limited amount of stuff that you can find in the game. And then once you have that, that's yours. So, for example, in Ocarina of Time... In Ocarina of Time, he can have 3 different armors, basically. He can have the green one, the red one, and the blue one. He can have 2 different shields. He can have a slingshot and a bow, and he can have, And there you've got a finite number of things which are not necessarily known, but you kind of have an idea of how much stuff you can find at the outset. And the inventory management then is just which item do I use at which point. basically. So it's just a way of swapping between your configurations. It's not for every game, but for God of War, for example, I think that would have worked particularly well, where I thought the inventory system was just so jarring for the style of game that you were playing.
In a way, that's what they were doing anyway with the inventory system. I mean, there was only they could have easily condensed it, like you say. You know, you can have these two weapons, you can have these. They could just said there are these 6 suits of armor you can get access to.
Right, but I'm thinking, for example, you had all these runes which you attached, but what if instead of that you had, the snow troll handle, you had the Norse hero handle, and you had the Greek mythology handle or whatever, and each one of those gave you some kind of different attack or some kind of different skill, and then your game is you're I don't know. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying.
Obviously, like you can't put like the inventory management from. I think Twilight Princess had that as well.
It did, which was another great game.
And like
Majora's Mask, I guess all of them.
You can't put those in a game like. God, we say Skyrim so much, but like you can't put it in a game like that.
Well, no, not Skyrim because of the way that game is meant to be, of course. But I just mean that it's another style of inventory, I think, which is distinct from the ones we discussed.
Yeah, and which I think works really well.
Yeah, really well, and particularly for some styles of games. Previously I would have had a hard time imagining what type of game that would be good for. But God of War seems like the perfect example.
Yeah.
So I just want to I'm going to zoom out a little bit and look at the problem from the top again. So,
go for it.
Because we're drifting into different topics, but they seem inextricable from inventory management. Because
for sure.
the function of it is the economy. It's to control your leveling to a certain extent, or to control your growth and power, which is sometimes also tied to the economy. And it's to force you to make interesting trade-offs and selections with your character. So those are the 3 functions of it. And because they're all at odds with each other, it's extremely problematic. So what you guys are saying with, I think, the both the Conan the Barbarian approach and the Zelda approach, which weirdly are very similar, is that you solve this by thematically constructing the game in such a way that you're not really concerned with every minor piece of loot you might find everywhere, because that's just not how this game or this world or this character functions.
Right, which is perhaps more realistic. I think you'd have to say.
Because sure, because then what you're doing is you're removing the task of the inventory management, controlling the economy, and in a way you're also removing it from managing your power creep, because your power curve, then you can sort of connect to well, now you've unlocked this item, and you can sort of pace it a lot more deliberately. So that's one way of solving it. But the question, sorry.
Just very quickly, it does remove slightly the economy factor, but it could, again, that could also be more realistic, because if you think of how much a sword would have cost, back in friggin' medieval times or whatever, all you'd have to do is pick up one fancy sword and maybe some guy's nice helmet, which you strap to your belt, and that could actually be enough to, make a pretty penny.
Yeah, I mean that's the Kingdom Come problem, but then what I was going to say was, those are good solutions. That's one way of solving it. But what I don't think any of us has said very well is, okay, but suppose you don't want to go that way thematically, and you want this to be a semi-realistic world.
Then how do you solve it?
Take the Bethesda games are such great examples. You can go with Fallout if you want to change pace away from Skyrim. That you want to have an economy where you can find items, and you want to keep that sort of experience, but you don't want to have a clusterfuck in the inventory management, because if you move from Skyrim to Fallout, I mean, Fallout 4 was a complete nightmare. Managing that inventory system,
the crafting, and it had potential for sure. It had potential. Some of it was very interesting.
Yeah, but for sure. And I loved the base building. I mean, Fallout 4 was one of my recent favorite games, but the inventory management was just a chore, and it's just as it was in Skyrim. And so the question is, if we don't adopt the Zelda the Barbarian approach to solving it, how can you reconcile the needs of economy management with your inventory and carrying capacity.
I mean, just put the focus of getting gold elsewhere, pretty much.
How do you mean?
Well,
like you can't sell things, you mean?
I mean, you can sell things, but maybe a gun that deals a bit more damage than your last one shouldn't sell for 1,000 gold coins. Like, you know, it's...
Well, I think all of these games fall are unrealistic anyway, because things that are very, very abundant and easy to find are often worth a lot of money, and that is clearly not the case in real life. You know, I couldn't go out on the street and, like, I don't know, just like find
yeah, I mean, of
something.
course. I mean, it's not like there is obviously some level of like you put the realism away like somewhere on every game is the thing. It's like
Sure.
it's like saying kind of like, but it retracts from realism or it's too realistic. It's like. Yeah, but
scale, man. It's just a scale.
No, but I see what
are and some things aren't.
Yeah,
it's
I see. Yeah, I see what Doodle is saying, because I'm thinking back to playing Diablo the first time.
Yeah,
and I remember feeling like after you go down to say, you know, you've cleared out that cathedral, you've killed the butcher, you come back and fucking Griswold's got like chain mail of the serpent, and you're like, fuck, I need that. And then he says, yeah, it's 500 gold, and you're like, but I've only got 200. He's like, sorry. It's like, fuck, man, I just killed like 500 demons from the gates of hell. Like, give me the fucking armor. Yeah,
have different ways to get gold.
But what I mean is that is unrealistic in itself. You'd think that if you have this like hero who's saving the world, people aren't going.
Does Griswold need the money for? The fuck's he gonna? If like Griswold has more money than fucking you do, like level fucking 50, I mean, you know, like
it's unrealistic
hero.
You know, people of their clothes and weapons and stuff after you. Kill them. It's like, you know, you gotta suspend it at some point.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. It's a cheap shot at Diablo, and of course that's true. It's a trope in all video games, but it's the point that Doodle was making, is that you do have to suspend disbelief to a certain point.
Well, also, ironically now, because I kind of shat a bit on Diablo 2 when we first started talking about this, ironically, it's actually not a bad way of trying to solve the problem that we just discussed.
No, I kind of agree. Especially because you could put stuff in your inventory that made you stronger, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool. That's an interesting trade-off mechanic. I like that a lot.
The charms, that was very cool.
Yeah.
And there was the stash as well. So if you had something,
right,
which you were like, I want to use this later.
Yeah, and you kind of got, you know, I think the inventory was maybe too. Well, I mean, it worked very well in Diablo 2. Let's be honest, the inventory and the looting was kind of what made Diablo 2, or part of what made Diablo 2 amazing. But as a way of trying to solve the problem of you can only carry so much and there's a trade-off, it was quite sensible. You know, you really did have to start thinking about which things are you going to carry back and which things are you going to leave, and are you going to burn a town portal?
I just think it's really lazy to do it the way Bethesda do and many other games.
Yeah, you're right. It is lazy. I think lazy is the right word.
Yeah, because it's just this. It's like if you're doing it because you want people to have a chance to get money, then it's like just make a better way, like a more in-depth way and like a more detailed way. It
falls in the middle of it. Like if we draw a chart, it kind of falls right in the middle of nothing. You know.
And that would, like, you know, it would make the game last longer, because if you spend longer trying to get gold, you spend longer playing to get your first home, and the home is more meaningful because you killed like 20 dragons at the end of a dungeon to get your first home. You know, it's like.
But this was the point.
Harder than London to get a home. Just to kill 20 dragons to get a home.
But this is what I was trying to say: is, you know, when you atomize this problem, here's what's happening. They're saying, you carry stuff; they have a financial value, so you can sell them and they'll get you gold, and by doing so, you can purchase other items. But they're also saying, you can't carry everything because that's unrealistic, and then you'll get too powerful. And then we're sitting here saying like, oh, well, you know, the inventory management is just shit. You know, you need to fix this problem.
But what's the solution?
Yeah, and what is the solution? It's still not clear what.
But that's the solution. Honestly, the solution to me, and it seems pretty clear at this point, is just to have.
He's cracked it, guys.
He's
cracked it.
No, but it just work out what the point of having an inventory is.
Yeah, but this is what I was trying to get at, is that the point
it's multifaceted.
The point is both to carry items away for you to sell, the economic interest. Yeah. It's also the trade-off in which things that you're wearing, and you can only carry so many things, otherwise you have no trade-off. Now, what I mean is, on the one hand, everything has a financial value, and that's how you get gold. Uh-huh. And on the other hand, you can't just carry everything, because part of the way they make one of the mechanics in the game is, okay, well, which equipment are you going to wear? How are you going to specialize your character? Where are you going to go on the trade-off between, armor and swords or whatever, or how many extra sets of equipment you're going to have for specific situations, blah, 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 blah. So those are the two different things. Now, the problem arising from them is because that's each of those problems has a different solution. So then you end up basically the result of that conflict of interest is that you do what we said in the beginning of this discussion. You look at an item, you see it weighs £2, it's worth 10 gold coins, therefore it has a ratio of 5-1, so I'll keep it. And that's an basically inevitable outcome if you have an inventory system which also serves as a sort of trade-off management or equipment selector. Do you know what I mean?
So one game that I seem to remember doing it quite well was Borderlands.
Then you could carry 10 items? Is that how it worked?
Do you know what? Embarrassingly, I can't remember. I just remember that the leveling and the scaling was such that you never really had a gun for too long.
Yeah,
and
and
there was enough variety that you could kind of very quickly make a decision, like, do I take that? Do I sell that? Do I use it? And it just felt very fluid. You weren't spending ages rooting, or at least I wasn't, I don't think, spending ages rooting around my inventory or talking to storekeepers, and it was quite a quick and efficient system.
Yeah, but I think that's a game that balances quite well, because there you have the trade-off thing doesn't really matter that much, because
there was a big trade-off in Borderlands, different gun and ammo types being efficient for different enemies. I do remember.
Yeah, so it was like fire damage, acid damage, or whatever.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
The thing is, so you wanted to try and,
cover your bases.
Yeah, but honestly, I think it's cheating if you use Borderlands as an example, because that's not an RPG. I mean, that doesn't face the same problems that Fallout faces in its inventory management. Because
why not?
Well, in Fallout, you're collecting items for crafting, you're collecting items for building your base, you're collecting items to give to people, you're collecting, armor as well as weapons. In Borderlands, it's just, your guns and then your shield generator. It's a different set of problems, or rather, you've bypassed those problems by just saying, well, you don't, like in Borderlands, you don't, after you've killed the bullywugs in the first area, you don't go and cut their hide off to go and sell to someone for more dollars or whatever it is you have. It's not the same problem.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
No. I mean, I don't know. I ultimately, I don't know. That's the answer.
Yeah, fuck, this is a really hard problem. I went into this thinking, inventory management, I got strong opinions, fuck those guys, they don't know what they're doing. And now I'm like, shit, how would you fix that?
Obviously, it's different for every game, because every game has its own,
Yeah, but lots of games have extremely similar problems. I mean, Baldur's Gate has the same problem Skyrim has, which is the same problem Fallout has.
This was the point I was going to make, which is that there's just this kind of convention now, right? Everybody's doing it, and I don't think many people kind of think, hey, should we try and do inventory differently? Or if they do, it's like, oh, how do we tweak this? Nobody's like, well, hey, should we just give this guy a bag and a pouch on his sack and 2 sheets, and then maybe the economy isn't built around just absolutely hoarding cheese rolls. Maybe the economy is based more around...
I definitely think that probably the biggest way to, like, the first way you should go about fixing it is looking at where does the income come from in your game.
Well, how does the economy work? Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of sad in a way that if you want some kind of open world, no, I mean, it's fucking sad, right? If you want a game that's fun, you have to think about the economy. It's like, jeez.
No, but
you know?
No, but so what's sad is that you always have every adventurer in Skyrim is reduced to some sort of capitalist entrepreneur who has to. No, but the point I wanted to make was Doodle's point. You know, you said, yeah, you have to look at how the economic system works. You know, fine. But then you're going back to these thematic solutions. You know, you're saying like, yeah, but you're slaughtering a wasteland and there's no merchants there. So once you're done with an item, just discard it. Okay, fine, that works. But if you want to make the setting like in Witcher, you've got these different cities, you've got items that are worth a different amount. Maybe you've got a setting where some goods are worth more in some areas than others, and you can take them from place to place to trade. Then you can't fuck around with that economic system that much without ruining the suspension of disbelief. You know what I mean? Like, why can't I sell this to that person? Or
sure, of course, but again, I do think that this has just somehow become the norm that you're expected to do this, and so the games are built around it. I mean, I don't really ever play a game to be a businessman. You know, I don't play a game to be some kind of arms trader, which is what you end up becoming. You literally become an arms trader.
Yeah,
you know, that's not what I wanted to do.
Like, how would your game play if there was no gold? And like,
yeah, and why do you need the? I mean, you need the gold to buy stuff, right? You don't need it to buy food or shelter or
weapons or like
maybe
buy better weapons.
This reminds me of that meme. This meme.
Huh?
It reminds me of this meme. Sounds kind of communist, but okay.
But
true.
You know, if you are like having things where it's like you can buy better gear in the game. I don't know. It's just there's so much to think about.
I don't. I think it's not. It's true what you said, Pilgrim, that if you set out with the ambitions that you have in like Fallout, where you have all this crafting and all this base building, and you have to carry 700 light bulb sockets because you need them for your like jukebox that you're going to build or whatever.
Yeah.
Then yeah, it's a problem, and probably the way they've done it kind of works. But I think that maybe the question is more like, do you really want to build your game around that? Is that what's fun for people? Is that, you know, and
why not have like done a better way, you know? Like maybe you can just pay some dude a lot of money to go and fetch those things for you. And then
or buy them at the light bulb shop, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Have them delivered to your camp.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean that's fine.
I'd just like to remind you that Fallout 4 is set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, so there might not be a functioning light bulb shop.
Or a UPS. Amazon.
No, but I see what you're saying, and it seemed I think if I understand your point correctly, Sleeve, what you're saying is that it's developers assume that you as a player are going to want to have some sort of inventory management system, and you as a player assume that you're going to be collecting things and managing them in an inventory. But if I understand you correctly, you're saying like, well, what if you made a game where the hero doesn't worry about, you know, in the first area of an Elder Scrolls game, picking up all of the candles and cheese wheels, and especially if you find a silver goblet. Woo! 50 gold coins right there.
50
that's like
gold for 0.5 kilos.
Yeah, hello. You don't worry about that, and your hero is more interested in saving the village or saving the world.
Exactly.
Because that sort of makes more sense. Because if you think about it as well, so I was going to say one more thing that just struck me.
Tell me.
If you watch a movie, you know, if you watch, I'm trying to think of a fantasy movie now that isn't embarrassing that I've watched. Okay, Conan. Yeah, when you watch Conan.
What about? Yeah, Conan's awesome.
Yeah, or
we're talking about the original shit here, not that far.
Yeah, or fuck it, think of like Lord of the Rings. You know, after they've killed all those goblins in Moria, They don't.
How
they
fucking
don't,
shit would it be if they went and like just
Yeah, it's
started
like-
picking up their pockets and stuff?
Yeah, half an hour scene of them like looking whether that helmet's sufficiently intact,
Right, and
to sell
and it
to
really
the.
kills the suspense of like time-based quests and stuff, where it's like, oh, rush to the end of the cave to like save the princess, and you're like, yeah, just give me a minute, guys, just hang on a minute, hang on,
And then they have the NPC pathetically saying, "Hurry! You really must hurry. The sun will be
Exactly.
down soon."
exactly, by
But then
liege.
that's more like the adventure game style of the thing. So
But
then
so-
you're
and-
looking more at having like a Zelda style imagery anyway.
Yeah, but this
Maybe
is
the
this is-
answer is just to
that's
have
a really
Zelda
good
style
point.
imagery.
That's a really good point, Doodle, though, because you're saying in a way that inventory management is almost a diagnostic feature of an RPG, contra, and adventure.
Yeah.
How bad is a doctor?
Well, I'm afraid you've got inventory BTs. No, but
You tried to save him, but he has a severe case of Skyrim inventory. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, but it's
Living
true.
all right?
No, he's covered in sockets. For real, because if you think
Yes.
about, like, when I think about a game, and someone says, think of the most RPG-y RPG you could think of, for me, it's going to be something like Baldur's Gate or
Yeah,
Divinity.
or Neverwinter's Night.
Or Neverwinter Night, yeah. That's going to be for me an RPG. And then, because if someone's, like Assassin's Creed, is that an RPG? And I mean,
Of course it's not.
Okay, sorry. So this is a rant for another day. Obviously, Assassin's Creed is not an RPG. But take,
Right.
for example, God of War. Is that an RPG?
No.
For me,
It's not an RPG.
no. Yeah, I mean, because but the argument I sometimes see is, well, you play a character who has a role.
I know,
It's
but that's not
also
what it means.
that's also true in Battlefield. Like, I'm a
Assassin's
medic.
I know, Call of Duty.
yeah.
Yeah, Call of Duty. I'm this like Black Ops guy.
Yeah, or
playing a role.
like Doom. I'm Doom guy. But yeah, no, yes, but there is something about the inventory that sets RPGs aside from adventures somehow, and I think it's part of that.
that's true.
I think it's part of that thematic thing that we're coming back to. This is going to be very synthesizing of this discussion, but I think that when you have an inventory, it permits you to sort of speciate more,
Yeah.
to diversify your character, to have more of an imprint of who you are, how
Right.
you dress, what you're doing, what your business is. Whereas
So
in an adventure game, and you don't have that, you're sort of trapped. And that's why we don't consider them an RPG. Because like in God of War, you can't pick up a mage's robe and a staff and start
Yeah.
casting spells. Yeah.
So absolutely. I mean, what I was going to say was RPGs basically rely a lot more on choice as well, and personal choice of how you want to play the game or how you want to react to decisions. Which is why obviously Mass Effect is I would call it probably an adventure action game, but it has very heavy RPG elements.
Oh my god. That's such a
Mass
funny way.
Effect-
That's such a
Wait,
funny way of
what?
putting things.
Well, perhaps. In any case, what I
So you're saying Mass Effect isn't an RPG?
well, I mean, I
Well-
would have said it's more sort of action adventure.
Yeah. You know what? I'll agree with.
definitely.
I
think it's
agree
an
with.
RPG.
Okay, well, anyway, that helps my point, which is that the fact of being able to make choices and actually make choices in your role is what defines the role playing
But
game.
Well,
A
no.
lot of that,
talk
a
about
lot
Mass
of that,
Effect.
a lot of that is based on how you manage your inventory, but I don't think it has to be. Is what I'm saying.
No.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like for example. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say about Mass Effect. Like that game's inventory management, that is also probably, I'd say, perfect. Actually, really,
Do
really
you know
good.
what? I can't remember. Would you?
No,
remind me?
you're misremind. I think you're
in the third
misremembering.
game. No, I played this game like last week. is
Oh,
the
the
thing.
third one. I can't remember that one.
In the third game, so the way it worked was there were like shops and stuff you could buy stuff at, and you got money after completing every mission. And you also got money by exploring different stuff. Hacking
Oh,
tunnels,
yeah, so
giving
you
them
didn't-
money.
You
So
didn't
you
have to
didn't-
hoard shit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was nothing you could sell. Basically.
Right, so that's basically what we were saying.
Yeah, which is probably a really good way to do it. And then you just collected all your weapons. The ones you didn't use were just left on your ship. And then at the beginning of every mission, you could choose which guns you wanted, and then which armor you wanted as well.
Yeah, that's really
yeah,
clever.
that's neat.
Yeah, so then
That's
if you
neat.
picked up a mission, if you picked up a gun on a mission, you could either add it to your
It could be like because you had two well, it would be either like your assault rifle weapon or it would be your handgun weapon.
A sidearm, yeah.
Yeah, but you couldn't have two handguns, for example. So it'd swap it out, and then the other one will go back to the ship. Is the idea?
Right. So that is a game which does pretty much what we were saying, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it could perhaps be done differently for a game which has more exploration, because I guess that's part of it as well. It kind of goes hand in hand with exploration. But yeah. I was gonna point out something which you said earlier, Pilgrim, about how if you want to have a world like you have in The Witcher 3, where you have all these cities and these different microcosms, and you said you can't then just not have an economy or deny its existence, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's
exactly.
not true. Because,
I agree with Ryan.
Because what about law and order? Like, where are the guards? You know, there's no real, it's not really well done in the same way that businesses are. And what about, I don't know, just like stable boys? What about, I don't know, there's all kinds of aspects.
Yeah, like Mass Effect has one of the most like deep and like lore-wise universes I can think of in any game series, and there's you can't sell shit in that game.
Yeah,
I suppose that's true, but I think thematically in Mass Effect this sort of works because you're this.
Well, Mass Effect isn't really open world either.
Well, so what I mean is if I'm playing a game where there's a sort of
a rebel who's trying to cross the border illegally.
No, wait, what? No, I mean it like one of the fantasy tropes is that fantasy is set in a medieval setting. Okay, fine. So imagine you're in a medieval setting, and I happen across a set of armor or something useful. It seems to me odd that I can't interact with that in some way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, but you already can't get. In some games you can, but in most games you can't just get absolutely everything that the person had. It'll be decided which parts of their.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying.
Anyway.
And that's what I was saying before. That I agree with you, and I'm after this discussion, I've sort of come around to the view that you could it would still make sense to create a hero who isn't really concerned with getting all of the stuff off everyone to become rich and own a castle.
And who, in fact, wouldn't necessarily, necessarily wouldn't rip the clothes off the people he kills, because that's just entirely, I guess, out of character.
Yes. No, that makes sense. But there's just still something about this idea that if you do aim to go for realism by saying, like, for example, you have a carry weight or whatever, it does seem to follow to me that you need to extend that a little bit further as well. By
realism isn't always the purpose of it. Like, I'm not always reducing carry weight to make it a realistic game, Do
you mean that it also serves the function of something else?
Well, it serves the function of being good game design, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Being a fun experience.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, if you go back to that atomization of the problem, it's like, okay, we have a game. We need to somehow have people commit to trade-offs in which equipment they have with them. How do we do that? Okay, they have inventory management and they can only carry a set amount. But then the next two questions, you could perhaps try and extricate from that and make more, present them in a different way. And those questions are, well, how do we manage the player's power curve relative to their environment? And how do we fix the economy in the game? And is there even an economy?
Right.
And if it's basically sounds like our solution to the nightmares of inventory management is by taking the latter two of those two problems and lifting it away from inventory management.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah.
Well, we fixed it.
I think we did it. I think we did it, guys. Yeah. That's it. Another success for Critical Mess.
a first
Holy
success.
Shit. I first success. I think that's our catchphrase, guys.
Another success.
For Critical Mess. Should we...
Critical Mess tidied up.
Should we... Oh, we had it, and then and then now we don't. All right.
I'm trying to be cool too, guys.
Should we quit while we're ahead? Now that we fixed this problem, should we call time?
You want to wrap up this episode?
I'm thinking we should wrap this episode. We should thank our listeners and our sponsors.
Which are hopefully more than just us three.
Skyrim is our sponsor.
I don't think Todd Howard is going to sponsor us now after we just shat on Skyrim.
Yeah, we shat on every game basically, except we like Mass Effect.
I just like to point out that we were shitting on all games from a place of love, because I don't think I mentioned a single game tonight that I didn't. That I really love playing.
I agree, and this ties into what I always say, which is that it's the games that you love the most where you can find the most fault.
Feedback.
That's true.
My wife, I love her very much.
He does always say that.
Repeatedly. So thanks, goodbye, and good night.
Yeah, bye.
I'm just gonna pause. I'm gonna pause the.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna stop the recording now. Okay, Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Critical Mass podcast. If you liked our show and you'd like to hear more, you can go to our website, thecriticalmass.com. That's all one word, where you'll find all the latest episodes, as well as additional content like our critical articles, unbiased reviews of games. If you have any thoughts or insights about this episode, why not send us a line on Twitter @CriticalMassPod. And you'll also find all our episodes on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, all the major podcast streaming services, as well as YouTube. If you did enjoy this episode, we'd be super grateful if you could share it with your friends or anyone you think might be interested. And if you didn't like it, why not share it with an enemy or someone you hate, maybe a noisy neighbor or your mother-in-law. Finally, we'd like to say thanks to Hakun for letting us use his excellent music on our podcast. The song is called Lucidness, and you can find Hakun, that's HAKKUUN, on SoundCloud or any good music streaming services. And you should check him out because he's super talented. Thanks again for listening, and hope you'll tune in next time. This has been the Critical Mass podcast. Bye.